Senator Kaufman has advocated for a renewed emphasis on science, engineering and innovation to meet the increasing challenges of a competitive global economy. In June, he introduced the STEM Education Coordination Act, bipartisan legislation intended to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of U.S. STEM education efforts. Before starting work for then-Senator Joe Biden, Ted worked for the DuPont Company. He has an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering from Duke University and an MBA from the Wharton School. So we'd like to thank you very much for being available today.
Thank you, Linda. And I also want to thank Greg Pearson for inviting me to speak to you about this important report. I commend the National Academy of Engineering and National Research Council for establishing the Committee on K-12 Engineering Education for the unique work they have conducted. I truly do. I think this is really an important area for the country. As Linda said, I became an engineer nearly 50 years ago. Just after I entered Duke, many Americans were inspired to become engineers by a sense of patriotism and desire to explore following the Soviet successful launch of Sputnik. Young people all across the country were motivated to enter engineering because America needed the intellect, creativity, and innovation to win the space race and send an astronaut to the moon. We met that challenge head on when we successfully landed on the moon 40 years ago. Now, we are in the midst of a great economic challenge, and I truly believe engineers will once again help us meet the obstacles we face. Not only does that mean restoring America's economy to a strong footing, but also tackling and solving the world's most daunting challenges. It's amazing. All the surveys say young people today want to make a difference in their lives. The problem is they just don't perceive engineering as the way to do that, which is ridiculous. We need to rebrand engineering and let young people know I truly believe that the way to make a difference is to participate as an engineer in the green revolution, any of the alternative energy sources, biomedical development, and so many of the things we have to do, we're going to have to do in the coming years. Engineers have always been the world's problem solvers, making a huge difference in people's lives and the quality of life. Clean water, life-saving cures for cancer and disease, clean, renewable, petro-free energy, affordable health care, environmental sustainability. These are just a handful of the great challenges the young engineers can set as personal goals and help to achieve. If we are to tackle these immense challenges, we can no longer wait to begin training our nation's future engineers until after they leave the K-12 education pipeline. That is why I'm so pleased that this report, the first of its kind, offers a progressive agenda for expanding and improving K-12 engineering education. I know from personal experience as a father that if you can't get a young person interested in tackling and learning calculus while you're in high school or pre-calculus while you're in middle school, they're lost as possible engineers. I have 3 daughters. I tried on all 3. I was 1 for 3. But we all know it's not that easy to convince a teenager that calculus is one of great life pivot points. I often think, whenever I hear these reports my whole life, and people talk about how you can make education fun, calculus is not fun. Somehow, in my opinion. I mean, there are people who think calculus is fun. You have to think when you do calculus that there's some reason why you're going through this pain. It's a little like working out. And that's why it's key. We have to give them an incentive and say, when I was in college, I wasn't doing as well as I should have been. And my mother told me to put over my desk at school a picture of a sports car so I knew what I was working for. And I think that's the same way with this. I think we have to put over their desk, if you want to make a difference, if you want to solve the world's problems, this is how you're going to get there. What can we do better? For too long, the majority of STEM education efforts have tended to focus on science and mathematics and rarely include technology and engineering. I don't have to tell this group that. As the committee says, this siloed teaching of STEM has thwarted efforts to engage students in real-world applications of science and math. It has also impeded technology and scientific literacy, which are essential skills in the 21st century. Engineering, is the ideal medium through which to teach these subjects, especially if we promote engineering as the means by which young people can make a difference in tackling the grand challenges of the 21st century. According to the report, K through 12 engineering education may actually improve student learning and performance in science and math. That seems pretty evident. And increases students' technological literacy. It may also increase awareness of the engineering profession and boost students' interest in pursuing a career in the field. Yet, as we all know, there is a gigantic, untapped engineering potential out there. As I said before, some of the greatest economic challenges of our lifetime, we cannot afford to let engineers fall by the wayside. Here are kind of my 4 things that I think we should do. First, we must build on the theme that engineering and innovation are the keys to America's economic success in a global economy. Let me say that again. I absolutely believe this to the bottom of my being. We must build on the theme that engineering and innovation are the keys to American economic success in a global economy. I am so pleased that President Obama set the goal to devote more than 3% of our economy to research and development. That is key and something we should have been doing a long time ago. This feat will require significant federal as well as private investment. One of the good things we did recently is the American Recovery and Investment Act has already provided over $20 billion of federal funds to science research as a down payment on this target. Second, the science and engineering community must show that stimulus funds dedicated to research and development are delivering positive results in terms of innovation, especially innovation that can be translated to help the economy. And I think it should be relatively easy to do. We just have to do it. Engineers and scientists will foster the research and innovation that continues to lead America on a path to economic recovery and prosperity. They will help us build a clean energy economy, stay competitive in a globalizing world, and drive the real-world applications from our nation's health and science research to improve our quality of life. Moreover, these discoveries and innovations will create millions of new jobs, I mean millions of new jobs, and invest in our future. But the science community must connect the dots for the public to see that stimulus funds spent on science research deliver dividends for us all. Third, we must encourage a new generation of engineers through policies that promote STEM education. Again, I don't have to say this to this group. Earlier this summer, I introduced the STEM Education Coordination Act. This bill is almost identical to a version that passed overwhelmingly in the House and will ensure that our current federal STEM education programs are working as efficiently and as effectively as possible. This legislation directs the Office of Science and Technology Policy to establish a committee under the National Science and Technology Council that is responsible for coordinating STEM activities that have often worked independent of each other without collaboration. We have plenty of anecdotal evidence to demonstrate that's what's going on in the past. These include federal STEM programs in the National Science Foundation, the Department of Energy, NASA, NOAA, and the Department of Education and others. It is vital that our current STEM programs function efficiently and effectively so that our investments succeed in bolstering achievement and interest in engineering education. Lastly, and having 3 daughters, we must promote policies that encourage women and underrepresented minorities to enter engineering. While American women constitute about half the students in our higher education system and about half the overall workforce, they comprise just slightly more than 12% of the science and engineering workforce. African Americans hold only 4.4% of science and engineering jobs, which unbelievably is better than 3.4% held by Hispanics. We can and we must do better. Earlier this year, a group of 13 bipartisan senators, Republicans and Democrats, joined me in sending a letter to the Appropriations Subcommittee on Agriculture to express strong support for funding to increase the participation of women and underrepresented minorities in rural areas in STEM fields. The subcommittee's appropriation bill, which passed last month, includes $500,000, just a small but a beginning, to fund research and extension grants at land-grant universities for women and minorities in the STEM field. This is a small but important first step that we can continue to build on from year to year. As America continues on its path to economic recovery, we will look at those trained in STEM fields to foster the research and innovation to solve the problems facing our nation. there is a silver lining to the financial crisis, and it's the opportunity to shift our priorities in many positive ways. You can't have change, even though President Obama ran on change, and I support him. It's always easier to have change when things are bad. When things are good, people say, why change? We're going to have to change. And there is a consensus we have to change. It's how we change. What we have to change, the folks in this room and others, we have to inspire our students, as we did during the race to the moon, to address the big challenges facing our country and the world. What better way to do this than through engineering education? I know that if given the opportunity, a new generation of engineers and scientists will step forward to meet these challenges. Thank you again for inviting me today, and thank you very much for your report and your work. Thank you. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them. Yes, sir.
I guess I was aware of, so you're a coordinating council
Yep.
in Office of Science and Technology
Right.
Policy. There have been some efforts in the past to do that kind of thing. Do you have any hopes that we'll get something new, better, different, and some real coordination between the federal agencies?
Yeah, I think if we pass the bill and put the department in, but I think really, I really believe there's change coming, and I think really people are aware of it. I think they really believe how important this is. So I think, you know, you can't solve problems, especially in the federal government, by just putting another box on the organization chart. But in this case, I think it's a box that goes in the organization chart just at the right time to really have people working together. And I think it's becoming more and more popular. I've talked to a number of the deans of the engineering schools that, you know, the term siloed was used by one of the previous speakers. I think siloing is becoming not public enemy number 1, but maybe public enemy number 10. And I think that that people realize that we have to have all the different agencies working together. So, yeah, I think I do think it's time for change. One of the things I swore when I was in my 20s, I'll never say we tried that, you know, because a lot of it depends on the timing, and I think the timing is right for this.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Kendall Starkweather from the International Technology Education Association. Do you think that during our lifetime that we'll be able to get technology and engineering to be as important as science and math is in policymakers' minds today?
Yeah, I think it's kind of what I hope happens is all of STEM moves forward. You know what I mean? I hope what's going to happen here is it's all going to get better, and I think engineering is going to be at the top. And I go back, look, I was there. I mean, I was there when we went through the Sputnik thing. I mean, everybody wanted to be an engineer. All of a sudden, the best students in all the schools wanted to be engineering. I mean, I don't mean to. I have a master's in business, so I'm not denigrating anyone. But you know, when I graduated from college, high school, everybody who was really smart wanted to be an engineer, and the guys, men and women that could make engineering, became business majors. And I've watched that completely turned on its head, where the top students going to business majors. 11% of the engineering graduates from MIT in 2007 went to work on Wall Street. You know, it's just changed totally. And I'm, you know, there's cycles for different things, and I think the key to this, I really, really think that America's future is tied, economic future, not environmental future, not political future, economic future is tied to all this green technology. And so I think that hopefully all boats will be lifted. So we won't have this internecine, you know, we don't have to do a report like this, where we talk about engineering and technology playing second fiddle to science and math. And frankly, during the, and some people can argue with me, but as I remember it, during the 60s, late 50s and 60s, engineering was above. I mean, again, we were shooting rocks to the moon. It was mechanical stuff. It was engineering, not mechanical, but engineering that was really leading the way in a lot of these things. It wasn't quantum mechanics. And so, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Kamsi Madison. I'm a high school math teacher and an Albert Einstein Fellow here at the National Science Foundation. And I just wonder what your thought is on sort of the triangulation of efforts between the federal agencies, the people who are actually on the ground teaching in K-12 schools across the country, and then the business and industry partnerships. Because there's a lot of green technology. I'm from New York City Public Schools. A lot of green technology and a lot of innovation going on within the engineering firms that I know of, just my friends who are engineers. But a lot of it doesn't seem to coordinate very well with the teachers in the schools. I mean, we might be next door to a big engineering project where they're doing green technology, and there's not a lot of coordination. So I wonder whether this council that you're talking about, or whether efforts that you know about, are trying to bring those three groups sort of together, not just the agencies themselves, but the sort of the three major big players.
Yeah. I think it has to start at the top. I think what the president's doing, it's kind of like, let me just talk for a minute about green technology and jobs, okay? I don't know if many of you know John Doerr. John Doerr is in, Silicon Valley. Anyway, John Doerr is a venture capitalist in Silicon Valley who, during the internet, invested early in Google, Cisco. The guy's worth $1 gazillion. And he came in and talked to the senators, Democratic senators, about 2 months ago. And obviously he said the internet was really big. But he said, and kind of the understatement, but he said if the internet's X, green jobs is 3X. We have been looking at this all wrong in terms of climate change and what it's all about. Not in terms of climate change is really important, but in terms of what this is going to mean. And the good news is that this thing could be 3 times bigger than the internet. The bad news is the United States is not in the ballgame. Right now, when you look at the top alternative energy sources, we're just not playing. And that's why it's so important the president put this $20 billion in to get us on the field. And that's what Doerr was arguing for, is for a green bank to put this money forward. And I've spent the intervening 2 months kind of keep thinking about this thing, and this is where it is. And it's going to be that way. And, this is not going to require, in my opinion, this is not going to require some extensive coordination. Everybody's going to be trying to figure out, how can I get a piece of this? And the big thing people say, why do we spend all this money on the stimulus and all the rest of those kind of things? If we come out of the stimulus, we will, the economic recovery next year, and everything's just fine, and we haven't done something about green jobs and healthcare technology and things like that, what we've done is we're level. We can't compete. The Chinese have figured this out. Europe's figured this out. Chinese, I won't go into all, but the Chinese have finally figured out very quickly that this is not a burden. This whole climate change, energy, pollution, clean air, clean water, this is not a burden. They can do one of two things. They can either let the rest of the world develop the largest industry in the world and come to them and they have to buy it from them, or they can develop themselves. They've decided to develop themselves. And there's lots of things, if you want to just Google the Chinese and energy and what's going on, they're doing a lot of different things. So anyway, my hope is that this won't take kind of a mechanical, every piece talk. Now, there's I don't know how many of you know about this program with Legos to make the robotics.
Yeah.
I just went to that the other day. DuPont has a program in Delaware, a number of programs with it. And it's just incredible in terms of, DuPont's deeply involved in helping the students, and the teachers are involved, and it's something where the students see engineering up close, and the results in terms of number of students who are considering engineering for the first time is incredible. And it just goes to show people what you can do with engineering. So hopefully we're not going to have to engineer it. With engineering. Hopefully, pardon my pun. But I think that if in fact there's this gigantic, as Ross Perot, remember, said there was this gigantic sucking sound down. Hopefully there's going to be this gigantic sucking sound at the top, which says we need engineers and we need them as fast as we can get them, because we got to be competitive, and that's where the job market's going, and that's where jobs are going to be created, and that's where my children and grandchildren. When people talk to me, come up to me as a senator, and they say we have to worry about our grandchildren, usually it's somebody who's talking about the deficit. The biggest deficit, we're going to leave our grandchildren. If we don't do something about this green technology, the deficits will not be a factor. That won't be the problem, because they may not be quite as broke if we don't spend money on science and technology and education. But there won't be any jobs for them.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Laura Bottomley, North Carolina State University, graduated from A.I. DuPont High School, Wilmington, Delaware.
God, I can throw a rock and hit A.I. DuPont on them.
My question is, what can we do to ensure that support for engineering in K-12 education is a bipartisan issue in Congress, or do you think it is already?
I think it is, but I don't think people are really focused on it. Like I say, even the students want to make a difference. The good news is the students want to make a difference. And I'm absolutely convinced if you get a student, I don't care who they are, and I raised 3 of them, and I'm watching raising grandchildren. You just show them the facts on this thing. And this is where the action is. This is where it's going to be. It's not going to be. So I just think we can do it. I think we have to do it. And I don't think it's that hard if we decide that's what we're going to do. And I don't mean we, just the people in this room. I think the people in this room are really incredibly helpful in terms of giving the intellectual underpinning and the underpinning for this thing and how to do it. And I think this report is a wonderful thing to do it. But I'm going to spend my time in the Senate just pushing decision makers to move it at the highest level. And I think the President understands. I really believe the President understands it. I talked to the Energy Secretary Chu today on another matter. He really gets it. And he's a very articulate, I don't know how many of you heard him, but I think anyway, he's one of the most articulate spokesmen for our cause going. I mean, he's the Nobel Prize winner, but he also can bring it right down to actual cost benefits and things like that. So I think, I mean, I'm not, we got a lot of problems to overcome. But I'll tell you what, the good news is this is a great, great opportunity. Bad news is we are way behind. And I think that's the driving force. It's not going to be it's not going to like Republicans and Democrats. And I don't think it's a partisan issue. I mean, I think that, there's always the partisan problem of not, the Republicans are more concerned about, they don't like to spend money on expenses on things like that. So I think that, and I think that's one of the reasons we didn't spend much of this on it. But clearly the President's behind it, and clearly it's our future. And I think that's finally getting through to people. So I am very optimistic on this thing. It's, what is it Rahm Emanuel says, you should never let a crisis go to waste. Well, we should not let this crisis go to waste. This is our opportunity to do something that I think everybody in this room has been working on for a long, long time. And, just there's certain times, you all know this, when there are opportunities, you can work on something. There just isn't any opportunity. There isn't much interest. You're pushing a rope. And there's other times when all of a sudden, the sun comes through and people begin to understand. So I think we have an incredible opportunity to make a difference for the future of our country, of our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, and our great-great-grandchildren. So thank you very much.